Welcome to Have You Read It? The channel where we bring books to life, one summary at a time. Today, we're diving into Leadership and Self-Deception, Getting Out of the Box by the Arbinger Institute. This book explores the fascinating concept of self-deception and how it affects our relationships and leadership abilities. The core theme revolves around recognizing and overcoming our distorted perceptions to foster genuine connections and achieve better results. Leadership and self-deception is valuable because it offers a fresh perspective on why we often fail to connect with others and provides practical tools to break free from self-imposed limitations. It's a unique blend of narrative and psychological insight, making complex ideas accessible and actionable for anyone looking to improve their leadership skills and interpersonal relationships. The book kicks off by introducing us to Tom and Anna, two new leaders at Zagram, who are about to attend a unique orientation led by Theodore Jefferson. Theo quickly points out they have a problem that's bigger than the ongoing merger. He reveals that the core issue is self-deception, which almost destroyed Zagram 20 years ago. He doesn't offer an easy fix, suggesting actions aren't enough and that the problem undermines leadership and stifles collaboration. Theo begins to explain self-deception with a story from his own past. Early in his career, while working as an attorney, he found himself on a major financing project that required him to travel to San Francisco, leaving behind his wife and newborn son. Despite feeling committed to his work, Theo harbored resentment and frustration, which led to him isolating himself and missing important details. He admits his focus wasn't on the result, but on his own feelings of being excluded and missing his family. The key point is, Theo was utterly convinced he was dedicated, while others saw him as distracted and disengaged. This highlights how self-deception blinds us to our own shortcomings. Theo explains that self-deception isn't just an academic concept. It's at the heart of everyday people problems. It causes us to amplify challenges and remain unaware of our contributions. Anna raises a valid point, questioning whether circumstances should matter and if it's illogical to expect work to be unaffected by one situation. Theo acknowledges that circumstances do matter, but emphasizes that he could have handled things differently by reaching out and collaborating, instead of isolating himself. Theo asks Tom and Anna to consider instances of self-deception within their teams at Zagram. Tom points to the sales team, noting that some reps make unrealistic promises, while Anna defends her team, citing the need to capitalize on the momentum of a new product line. Theo sees that the blame and defensiveness are the problem. To illustrate, Theo explains that effective leadership requires accurate perception, specifically in how we see ourselves and others. The problem is that we should see that others are people like we are, who matter like we do. Theo asks Tom how he sees the problem with his daughter's shoelaces being untied. Tom says she is too stubborn to listen to him. Theo asks how Tom's daughter sees him, and Tom guesses controlling or critical. Theo uses this example to show that when we are in conflict, we see each other in negative ways, which is self-deception. Theo points out that this is the same dynamic between the product and sales teams. He says that the sales team sees the product team as unhelpful, closed to feedback, and unresponsive. The product team sees the sales team as impatient, unrealistic, and greedy. The problem is that both teams believe their perception is the truth. Theo says that the most important step is learning how to see. To illustrate the danger of misperceiving problems, Theo shares the story of Agnes Semmelweis, a doctor who discovered that doctors were spreading childbed fever by not washing their hands. The medical establishment refused to acknowledge Semmelweis's findings, clinging to falsehoods rather than accepting a painful truth. Similarly, self-deception is like a disease infecting our perception, causing us to see others as objects rather than people. This inward mindset distorts how we engage with each other. Even more damaging is that when we're self-deceived, we resist the idea that we are the ones with the problem. Theo lists issues caused by self-deception, such as lack of accountability, procrastination, power struggles, and poor communication. At this point, Kate Stenerud, Zagram's CEO, joins the training session. Theo proceeds to tell a story about his son crying as a baby and his initial reluctance to get up, blaming his wife for not doing it. He found reasons not to. This led to self-betrayal, the root cause of distorted perceptions. According to Kate, we betray ourselves any time we fail to act on the helpful senses we have toward other people. It's these everyday moments of self-betrayal that open the doorway to self-deception. Theo creates a diagram that shows how self-betrayal leads to seeing others in a distorted way to justify our actions. He had a sense to take care of his son, but he made an excuse not to. His distorted views made it seem like Tracy was the one at fault. Theo says that we look for reasons that we shouldn't get up. When we betray ourselves, we seek justification and turn inward. Aina asks how to know if one is seeing clearly, particularly when others are intentionally mistreating us. Theo responds that in the majority of interactions, we're dealing with imperfect human beings. And self-deception makes us more likely to assume animosity. However, when determining how much we trust someone, their character matters. Kate says that when addressing self-deception, others' intentions are irrelevant. You have a sense to be helpful, independent of others' choices, and betraying that sense leads to self-deception. Tom shares a story about a supervisor, Pia, whose plan caused problems. But Tom admits that he didn't have a sense to help him, and his team thought Pia had it coming. He was agitated. He did it because he thought that his supervisor was arrogant and constantly undermining how he was leading. But Theo says that he was already inward toward him. Theo continues to explain that chronic self-deception takes one of two forms. We see ourselves as either better than others or worse than others. Both distance us from the truth that others matter like we do, and can be used to provide us with justification. Theo explains that feeling better than others leads to resentment and entitlement, whereas feeling worse than others leads to feeling powerless. Kate says the tendency is to see yourself as better or worse than others, depending on the relationship or circumstance. But the principles apply to your own circumstances, especially in or between your teams. Theo says that it often shows up around specific traits or qualities that we use to find justification. These are the sort of images of ourselves that we not only believe when we're self-deceived, but that we become invested in having others believe about us too. Theo asks how we can be prevented from looking like we're bad. Aina offers that she doesn't want people to see her that way. It would mean she's a fraud. Kate pulls Tom aside to talk about the situation. She relates it to her own experience with Lou Herbert, Zagram's founder. She had been disgusted with Lou, but she didn't realize that she was self-deceived too. After some reflection, she knew they both needed to change, but she also knew that all she could control was her. She said his better-than-inwardness showed up as blustering arrogance. But her better-than-inwardness showed up as self-righteousness, and was damaging the company just as much. Kate asked him to spend time thinking about it, and seeing if there's anything he felt he ought to do. In the meantime, Theo talks with Anna about Tom. Anna says that Tom's abrasive, but Theo says that some of those strengths might be tied up in the very traits you find difficult in Tom. Theo explains that he feels pressured to try to blend in, but at the same time, you have to stand out and prove that you belong, especially in sales. He thinks that might be some of what makes it hard for her to work with Tom. He then invites Tom and Anna to apply the lessons from the training. Tom's phone then buzzed to remind him to pick up his daughter, but he'd forgotten. Theo had said, "Are you seeing any of the people around you as objects?" He sighs and apologizes for being mad. He admits he's on edge today because of his work training. Aina reflects that if they're not focused on themselves, they're just free, focused on the project, and connected to other people. That's exciting and fun. And it lifts you up just being around people like that. She thought that life can feel like a performance, at least at work. Theo replies that to shake the self-focused worry of an inward mindset, that when someone else's strengths seem to shine a spotlight on areas where we aren't confident, the more we get worried about being seen in a certain way, or become focused on our weaknesses, the less able we are to focus on the project and people we work with. He tells Anna to try to see Tom as a person. Tom calls Pierre to apologize. Pierre doesn't understand but seems to accept the apology. Back at the training, Tom admits that Becca had been ready for a fight before the car started moving. And even though he tried to connect and not see her as a challenge, it really didn't pan out. After the training, Anna started thinking about how each car around her had a person inside of it, or even whole families. Then, Theo says that one of the most pressing problems that a leader, organization, or individual faces is self-deception, a condition where your perception is systematically distorted in your favor. We make excuses and blame and then take responsibility for our choices and have better outcomes. Tom asks how to tell whether you're justifying a self-betrayal or just considering extenuating circumstances. Theo replies that we tend to either deny all responsibility or make a strategic, partial concession with a large caveat attached. Theo shares a story of working under Jia Chun at a law firm. She was a role model because she took responsibility for his mistake. He learned that accountability can spread in a culture, especially when it's modeled by a good leader. When they return to the training room after lunch, Lou Herbert, the former CEO, joins. Lou begins the training by revealing that everyone was everyone else's fault. He was convinced he deserved better. He explains that he tried punishments and rewards on his son Corey, but nothing worked. Corey's behavior threatened that. And it threatened my identity as a successful parent. He was ungrateful and spoiled and undisciplined. He was an obstacle to the life and reputation Lou was trying to create. But his biggest realization was that he cared about his image more than their relationship. And just as at home, so it was at work, that his ego was at play. To demonstrate collusion, Lou uses the whiteboard to diagram the downward spiral. He admits that he was provoking Corey to behave in the very ways he said he hated. Aina asks what kept us so fixated on justification when it only makes things worse. They may even be afraid that other people will find out, and will be punished or rejected or lose their respect and admiration. In the words of Kate, we're often afraid that we're not enough, that we don't measure up to the task or our position. But the fear is an illusion too, and a result of being inwardly focused. Theo explains that with an inward mindset, they blame and accuse others with their thoughts, words, behaviors, and even their emotions. Further, in the right context, they use their feelings to trap themselves into the deception. The group proceeds to then talk about a specific interaction that is troubling and analyze the situation on the board. Lou states that when they got done diagramming and looking at the chart, all that needed to be done was to take responsibility. Seeing clearly was enough. Lou and Theo now start to work together at the training session. It's been decided by Theo and Lou that it has been enough to discover a better way. Lou says that one of the best parts of his job is seeing relationships change for the better. As a point of caution, Kate notes that not all relationships are on equal footing, and that differences exist. Anna is concerned that she'll come across as being bossy. To solve the situation, Theo mentions how Lou was able to come back to his son after reaching out by sending letters. Lou replies by saying they will need to find a way to see each other again. Theo also brings up what Kate said, that things will need to come from their team. He states what is needed for the team is to be responsive and alive, and also that they could accomplish a lot. The group discusses how it can affect one's family to deal with what was discussed in the leadership. At the end of the meeting, Theo stated that with all of this together, it made him feel the best way to try and show up. Anna, thinking about all that had happened over the last 2 days, tells Cheryl about her excellent presentation from last week. Cheryl is relieved and explains that things felt uncertain, and I was feeling burned out, and then nervous when you joined. As it turns out, she had thought she would throw herself into that presentation just to see if anyone noticed. But after thinking about it, Lou invited her to speak today. He offered the support to have a leader would be the best to get results for the team. Anna says that what's needed is if the team had that to be excited, and also what's needed for the leaders of the group. Back on her own and after realizing what's what, Anna then calls her husband and tells him she is on her way home with ice cream. At that very moment, Tom is home and sends a text asking if they can still go to a movie tonight. In the end, Anna says that the weekend will be having an outward mindset toward a moody teenager. Alright, let's distill the key takeaways from leadership and self-deception into actionable insights you can use right away. Self-deception is a silent relationship killer. It's the invisible problem that underlies all other issues, from lack of accountability to poor communication. Recognize it, and you're halfway to solving the problem. Betray yourself, and you'll distort the world. Self-betrayal is the root cause of our distorted perceptions. Anytime we fail to act on a helpful sense towards others, we set ourselves on a path to self-deception. Others matter like you matter. This foundational truth is the bedrock of effective leadership and genuine relationships. Lose sight of it, and you risk objectifying those around you. Feel justified? Check yourself. The need to be justified is a telltale sign of self-deception. If you find yourself constantly seeking validation, take a step back and examine your motives. Emotions are indicators, not dictators. Our emotions reflect our perceptions, not objective reality. Use them as clues to uncover hidden biases and assumptions. Turn outward, not inward. The cure for self-deception is to shift your focus from yourself to others. Get curious, show empathy, and seek to understand their needs and perspectives. Collusion is a two-way street. Conflicts often involve mutual contributions. Break the cycle by taking responsibility for your part and offering a different, more outward version of yourself. Real leadership starts with seeing clearly. Accurate perception is foundational to effective leadership. Strive to see others as people, not objects or obstacles. Accountability spreads in a culture. Effective accountability starts with leadership modeling a willingness to take responsibility for mistakes and shortcomings. It's a practice, not a destination. Overcoming self-deception is an ongoing process, not a one-time fix. Stay vigilant, challenge your assumptions, and recommit to seeing others clearly each day. In wrapping up our exploration of leadership and self-deception, it's clear that the journey from self-deception to clear-sighted leadership is ongoing. It requires courage, humility, and a genuine commitment to seeing others as people. The book's impact is a reminder that true leadership isn't about authority or control, but about fostering growth, collaboration, and genuine human connection. As you reflect on the principles we've discussed, consider how you can turn outward in your daily interactions. Challenge your assumptions and cultivate a workplace where everyone feels valued and understood. Remember, the most profound changes often begin with a simple shift in perspective. Don't just take our word for it, though. Dive into leadership and self-deception yourself. Experience the narrative, absorb the lessons, and discover how it can transform your approach to leadership and relationships. There's a wealth of insight waiting for you, and we highly recommend taking the time to explore it. It's a journey worth undertaking, and the rewards are immeasurable. And that concludes our summary of leadership and self-deception. We hope this overview has inspired you to explore the book further and apply its principles in your own life. Thank you for joining us on this enlightening journey. Thanks for watching. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you never miss our next book dive.